Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Sunday Night Live, your favorite automotive show where we tackle the tough issues, how to improve the customer experience at your store. Whether it's the front of the store, the back of the store, or somewhere in the middle, doesn't really matter, because if they have a great experience, they'll come back to you for everything they need when they need it. And they'll bring their entire tribe, their friends, their family, coworkers, people they go to church with, everybody. It's really pretty important. I know we dust it off every once in a while. We say, oh, the customer experience is really important. So yeah, let's bring that out again. And I'm very fortunate. I have a great bunch of friends, colleagues, and connections that come on to share with us every week what they've done or what they do now to improve that experience at your stores. Real actionable items that you can use in your stores as early as tomorrow. And this week is no exception. My good friend Dave FOY is on with us. And, we were just talking before the show started. We first got connected at the end of 2015. So we're coming up on a 10-year anniversary, Dave.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm looking forward to the dinner you're taking me to for that anniversary.
Oh, and we've had some good dinners. It's so funny. I had some situation I posted about today. And at the end, I said, you know what? I'm so frustrated. I'm going for some KFC. And this guy comments, it's always about the food with you. Always. What can I tell you?
Why not?
So, Dave, welcome to the show, man. For the one or two people that watch it, either now or on the replay that may not know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, and then we'll jump right into it because we got exciting stuff.
Yeah, as always, I'll give the Cliff Notes version of Dave FOY. Started in the business 1987 as a technician for Ford, and turns out I am not a very good technician. And so Ford asked me to stop working on their vehicles, and I became a service advisor. Did that for the next 10 years at a different Ford dealership than I was a tech at. Did that for 10 years, almost 10 years. Won some awards with Ford, had some nice trips back when OEMs did some things for Fixed Ops folks, and then got a chance to start as a manager, and worked my way up from there all the way to a Fixed Ops director. And about 5 years ago, got out of the dealership side, joined a tech startup that was delivering training into dealerships, built out the Fixed Ops program there, was there a couple of years, and then went out, did some training and consulting on my own. And for the last bunch of months have been running the mastermind and we are and the newly formed Automotive AI Summit.
Wow. It's a lot of stuff there, Dave.
That's why I give you the Cliff Notes version, because if I start all the way at Bandcamp, we're going to use the whole show just for that stuff, Paul.
Now, I just want to give the disclaimer. There are some people's comments that may not show up during the live. They'll show up afterwards. So if we don't respond to your specific comment, it just means that the glitch that is either LinkedIn or StreamYard persists. And LinkedIn says it's StreamYard. StreamYard says it's LinkedIn. We'll never know, so we just kind of work around it. All right. So that's the first disclaimer. And I just want to let everybody know that doesn't know. All right. When before the pandemic hit, this guy over here, he is the originator of the online Fixed Ops Mastermind and all things Fixed Ops online. Now, I've seen some people try to take credit for it along the way. Don't believe them, because I was there when he started this before anybody else started this. So thank you, Dave, because you've taken us from the Stone Age to the Jetsons with that forward thinking on that. So thank you very much.
I appreciate that. It's funny to think back that I had to explain Zoom to people to come to the meetings back then.
Yeah, no, it's come a long way since then. I want to go to a couple of comments. First, we have Larry Feldman says, good evening. And on the computer comes up as LinkedIn user, but I'm happy to say that on the phone, it's Mike Vogel. Says,
Hey.
telling it like it should be. Also give Paul Meijer a hard time, laughing face emoji. And Stan Shear, coming to you from Naples, Florida. Stan called me, was looking for a place to eat. Give him a good recommendation, but he already chose something else before then. So welcome to the show. So now, look, there's a lot of books on fixed ops. After you do it for a number of years, you know, you can kind of walk into a store and 5 minutes later of observation, you kind of size up what's going on, and you have a pretty good idea right out of the gate as to where they're missing opportunities, where they're off on efficiencies, and where they can improve. But when you dig deeper and you go into the science of it, that's really cool, because that's where you have kind of line item by line item. And before we get into all of it, I want to know, what was it that made you want to add yet another book to the fray?
Yeah, so when I originally started to write it, I was really just trying to document the process that I had used when I went into stores, and that was my original intent, was to just document it for my own knowledge, to know that there actually was something to what I was doing. As I started to do that and started to look at the processes that I put together, that's when I said, you know what, this would probably be helpful to people who are either, look, we started the mastermind to help advisors and techs get the knowledge they needed to become leaders, right? And so as I started to put this together, that's where my thoughts went. This would probably be helpful to an advisor or a tech or somebody who's going into that leadership spot that maybe hasn't been a leader before. Certainly it's helpful even for somebody who has been a leader, who is just looking for a different point of view on things, right? I tend to look at things a little differently, that sometimes make people look at me a little differently. And so exactly, just like that, a little bit side-eyed. And so as I started putting it together, I was like, I like this. It's nice. It's short. It doesn't go deep. It's not a, it's not a production manual. You're not going to learn everything you need to know to run a dealership in there. It's the nuts and bolts, basic stuff that you need to do, that you can go in and do with limited knowledge, right? There's nothing going deep there on what's going to move ELR or any of that stuff, right? It's all surface stuff that you can go in and in the first 90 days make an impact at that store, that's going to show everybody that's there that you believe in them and that you truly want to help them succeed.
A lot of people, look, the real sustainable change, I think, takes a year and a half. Okay. Yep. And we're talking about incremental improvements over time. But there's nothing that says that in 90 days, you can't have a massive shift in just refocusing on different areas. And having a manual or a book like this, that's a good thing, because nobody knows everything, right? No matter how many years you've been in the business, I learn every day. I pick up something from somebody, all right? And I'm open-minded to the point of, if I don't believe in something, I want to at least hear another person's viewpoint,
right?
And see, maybe I need to change something. And one of the areas that you helped me with was, I'm not a fan of the kiosks, okay?
Yep.
But I think you put it in such a way when we spoke about it that, hey, there's a percentage of your customer base that either you have it to offer it to them or they're not coming in, period. End of story.
Yep.
And at that point, I that was kind of eye-opening, because now I'm thinking to myself, wow, if that's the case, then I have to ask myself as a manager, do I want that business? Yes or no?
Right.
So maybe you bring it in for those people and you work it to earn their trust, to hopefully convert them over to wanting the in-person conversation. But unless you offer that, you're never going to see them. And that's one of the great things about collaboration, right? You have to be open-minded. There's too many people like this in our business. Oh, I've been doing it forever. I know it all. You can't teach me anything. Who the hell are you? That's the wrong attitude. Let me go to a couple of comments here. Stan Scherer is coming to us from Naples, Florida. And Mike Vogel says, Dave, Paul is transitioning to plant-based meals. I can only hope. I'm open-minded. I have all of it. That's the problem. When Mike and I got together in California, we had amazing plant-based food. It was really good. Joe Clementi, good evening, Rockstars. Welcome, Joe. And Mike Vogel says, agreed, Paul. 90 days is the transition period, and then 12 to 18 months to prove success and sustainment.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, God, here we go. John Frazier. Did someone say kiosks? Michael Dean Offmuth. Hello, gentlemen. Welcome, Michael. All right, so it's a good format. You've got certainly got the experience. Now let's look at things like foundations and observations. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Things that you need for success. Talk to me a little bit about that. That's where your book starts.
Yeah. So, and one of those things is talking about working on the business, not in it, right? You need to be able to, you cannot be as much as we love it as leaders who have come up through the shop, been advisors and things. We always want to be in the mix, right? And that is not the best way to bring a team to success. It is. I'm not telling you not to be out there on the drive. I was out there usually the first hour to hour and a half on the service drive every day. But that was not always actively working the drive, right? Sometimes it was just being there. Sometimes it was just catch overflow. You need to be able to have yourself removed enough and have your people up to speed enough and empowered enough. True empowerment, not fake empowerment where you tell them they can go do stuff, and then when they screw it up, you blame them for screwing stuff up, right? You need to you need to have that ultimate responsibility for them to take true empowerment of stuff. And you need to have that time to be able to put some actual strategic thinking into this business. Yeah. It doesn't happen in a lot of stores because a lot of leaders get fearful that if they're taking some of that strategic thinking time, what does it look like to the GM or the dealer principal? It looks like they're not doing something, right? And if you're not busy 100% of your time during the day, then maybe we have a problem. Maybe we need to switch leaders, right? And that's not the best way to do that. The way you start to divide your time up is by using what I call the fixed ops priority matrix. And so that's just that's my play on the Eisenhower matrix. And you just need to divide your time into those. We're not going to build everybody's time into those matrices, but you need to know what's important, unimportant, what's urgent and not urgent. And you need to divide your time into those 4 boxes so that you can spend time in the proper box doing what is going to help the store succeed.
That's a critical point there, because when you're running the business, you need to have a complete view of all of the business, and you need to be able to affect change in all areas of it. Okay, to relay that to the variable side of the house. Okay, you can go into a lot of stores, and the general manager, who's responsible for the entire operation, is desking 80 to 90% of the deals. Now, yeah, that may sound cool, and that might be some chest pounding, how many deals they close. But in reality, how much time are they really missing in really building the business as good as the business can be? So while you need to be able to jump into the drive at any given time and be able to lead from the front and show them how it's done, not just, here, shadow that guy or shadow that gal, do what they do, and you'll be good. And then, like you said, a month later, when something goes sideways, you're yelling at them for what they did wrong, as opposed to saying, hey, you know what? How could I have better supported you to be better and more effective at your job? So that's a critical point. You need to be able to do it, but that can't be your only function, because then you're neglecting the other parts of your business. Let me go to a couple of comments. Ricky Lopez, great stuff, guys. Glad I'm in. And he says, we take a lot of business and a lot of market shares from other dealers in our area because they refuse to work to drive, and we religiously work to drive 2 to 3 hours a day. He's on the sales side of things. Joe Clementi, time blocking is essential skill for all leaders. Delegating authority, not task.
There you go.
Very, very well put. The art of delegation, is what's going to separate the true leaders in the business from those just managers working in the business.
Yep, absolutely.
And now, building trust before changing, right? When you come in, we're going to change everything. I went to a 20 group meeting last week. I learned 40 things, and we're going to implement all 40 things. How many eyes roll on that one, Dave?
Every one of them. Every single one of them. And look, and that's coming back from a 20 group where everybody already knows you, right? You're walking into a store, you're brand new, and you're going to start telling them about all these changes, and then you're going to wonder why there's pushback. That's not a them problem. It's a you problem, right? You can't. Good.
Well, keep in mind too that 90 days prior there might have been another guy or gal.
Absolutely.
And 90 days before then.
Exactly. That's part of the problem, right? The store that I just helped out at had 5 service managers in the last 18 months. Nobody in that store wanted to hear anything about what you were going to do different. So that's the first part, right? Is you can't go in and expect that they're going to trust you because they've been hurt. They've been hurt badly, right? And that hurt badly is hurting their paychecks badly. And now you're another guy who's stepping in to say, we're going to change a bunch of stuff. And the 5 people before them also said that. You need to build some trust there. You build that trust by painting a vision of why we're going to change something, right? Yeah. Nothing gets changed without a why attached to it. You need to be able to build a vision for that store with that team. So the vision of the store is so big that they can see the vision for their lives fitting within that big vision of the store. So if we can make the big vision of the store come in, then all the visions for what they want within their life can be contained within that. And we need to be able to paint a very vivid picture for each one of them on what's important to them and how we're going to achieve that for them by achieving the big overall vision for the store.
How I like to look at that when I go into a store, I like to look at it as, you need to have the plan, because if you have a good plan, these people aren't dummies. Okay. Mm-hmm. They've heard a lot of plans.
Right.
And you can quickly tell somebody that does not know what they're talking about from somebody that's done it and does know what they're talking about. I am a firm believer in what you just said there, because if everybody understands the plan and they understand the value of the plan and what the value is to them as employees, what the value is to their coworkers and vice versa, and how that value translates up to the store, how that then turns back into something for them. Because I want them to do it for them. If they're doing it for me, guess what? They're not doing it.
Right.
But if they see the value in doing it for them and how their teammates rely on them for their success, then everybody's going to pull the rope in the same direction. Let me get to a couple of comments before I go further. Jerry Davis, our SDL buddy, agreed 100%. Growing people is key. That starts at delegation. And empowerment is essential in growth. Okay. I like how he said growing the people is key. And growing the people means getting to know the people.
Mm-hmm.
And look, not everybody here remembers everything. So by all means, a notepad, right? Get to know all the people so they see that you're interested in their success and you're sharing with them how you're going to help them achieve their success. And if you need to write stuff down, then so be it, because at least it shows them that you care, and it's going to help everybody be a better member of that team. Mike, let's see here. Mike Vogel, your team should be involved in any possible changes prior to them happening, and their feedback should be solicited. Wow, what a concept. You actually want the people to give you feedback that are on the front lines, that are doing the work with your customers.
Yeah, who maybe see roadblocks and kinks in the hose that you do not.
Right, because of tunnel vision, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Things don't always go according to plan, right? You have to have a plan, but you also need to have kind of a couple of other contingencies, because sometimes stuff comes out of left field that you have no control over,
right?
And you can't be derailed. If you're derailed and they see that you're rattled, then you've lost it. John Fraser says, none of it matters without a dealer/GM that actually wants change. Bam! There's an old Italian saying, the fish stinks from the head, and that could not be any more true. If you're just the next guy thinking you're going to fix it with no support, you'll just waste your time, pack your stuff, and go. The dealer must be ready for change. And Joe Clementi says it always comes back to culture, Dave, doesn't it? Poor culture equals poor behaviors and destructive processes.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Davis, the fish rots at the head. That's what I just said. I feel all potential new service managers should be allowed to interview upper management. First question, why did the last service manager fail? Oh man, that is so key. But how many managers actually go in and do that?
Yeah, it's not going to happen. And to John Fraser's point, I would agree on the dealer. I think the GM, depending on the store, I think you can get around the GM not believing in that change. And still, I've been at stores where the GM was not interested in changing fixed ops. And if you're strong enough, or you're willing to put your neck out enough, right? Like you may be putting your neck out there that it gets chopped off, but
yeah,
if you're willing to put your neck out there enough for the team, that you can get by a GM. If it's a dealer that doesn't want change, why did they bring you there in the first place? In that interview process, that should have come out that you were a person who was all about change and things. And unless they thought you were bluffing, they're probably not going to bring somebody in who might be disruptive to what they expect to see.
But you know what's interesting though, Dave, is that there are some of those stores that maybe it's a family-run store. Maybe there are other family members in specific leadership roles that probably shouldn't be there. Mm-hmm. Or it could be a situation where you're going into a store and let's say the service manager, the parts manager, and a couple of other people in the store, they are close to the owners. And the owner doesn't want to make that change. So yeah, I always scratch my head when you go into a new store and there are obvious problems, but yet the ownership does not want to excise that cancerous growth.
Yep. It happens. I left the store because of a GM that was brought in that was destroying the culture and doing some things that I didn't agree with, and I fought against that. I fought against that for quite a while, and until I literally gave the dealer a choice: either you can get rid of him or I'm gonna go.
And you know why a lot of the service managers or service directors that apply to some of these jobs, or they get offered these roles, why they don't dig into those conversations before uprooting and moving across the country is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Because that hurts you in the long run. The dealer's going to make the money regardless.
That is true.
Now, early operational control, everybody's favorite, open repair orders and the cleanup plan.
Yeah, well, most stores, Paul, as you know, most stores that you go into don't have a problem with that. Oh, sorry, this wasn't the comedy edition. Yeah, it's a huge problem, and a lot of times it funnels right back to why the guy before you isn't there anymore. I can tell you, we were talking before we hit record. I was consulting for a store last week that was a store that I used to run 7 years ago. And this was the first thing that I did, was go in and take a look at open repair orders and match cars and keys. I want repair order, I want keys, and I want to put my hands on the car. I want those three things together. And then from there, we can start boiling it down to why a car is still there, if it's there too long, why there's a car out in the lot with a tag number that has no repair order, why we have repair orders with no cars. There's lots of things that boil to the surface after you can assess what is on your open repair order list.
That's the biggie right there. Because within that 90 days, there's a lot of stuff you're going to be observing, and there's a lot of coaching that you're going to be doing to hopefully change mindset and to get buy-in, because that's all the stuff you need in order to turn a successful turnaround, right? But it's a multifaceted problem, because a lot of times when there are a lot of open ROs and there's no cars, now you've got a big problem. Right? Because we're very much a CSI driven business, right? Yeah. Monies, incentives, everything is tied to CSI, right? So now when you're doing your audit and you uncover however many cars that are not there, and now you're putting a dollar figure on what's missing,
right?
Could easily be in some bigger stores, right? So the problem is, one, where did the money go? Why was it allowed to go on as long as it did? Because with a large number of open repair orders and there are no cars to match, you got to ask yourself why, as you said earlier. Why was it allowed to go that far? And now you've got to swallow that bitter pill. Now you're going to be writing off some losses, and you're going to be closing some ROs. And what happens when the ROs get closed?
They get surveys. Yeah.
And what generally happens with those surveys, Dave?
They're usually really good surveys, Paul. Customers are usually pretty happy.
It's a problem, because so now you found a huge problem, right? Red herring, I think they call that. And now you add to that by just rattling all these people with surveys. And then when the surveys come back, because not everybody understands this, right? When all these surveys come back, well, what the hell are you doing, Dave? I thought you were here to help things out. CSI is worse than it was ever before, but is that their fault?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it tanked after you got here. Yeah, absolutely, and it's why you've got to do it quickly, and that is the first thing that I do, other than greeting the team, meeting the team, telling them who you are, getting a quick little bit about who they are. But I don't spend time on that first day in a store going around getting to know everybody, right? It's I'm here. This is what we're going to accomplish. This is what we're going to become. Yeah. And now we got some work to do to get there, and we'll touch more on that after. And then I go and get the open RO list, and I start collecting ROs and keys and going out in the parking lot and touching cars. And that function alone gets people to notice and is like, what is he doing? When I went over to one of the techs, and I'm like, I need to know what ROs you're holding on to. He literally pulled out 8 ROs that he had on his bench. 8 ROs for cars. And I'm like, these cars are all still here? Yeah. Well, a lot of them are waiting for parts. I'm like, you have 8 cars that are waiting for parts.
It's a problem.
I'm like,
how long?
You have keys for all these cars? Yeah, I got the keys for them. I need them. I need the keys for these cars. He hands me 4 sets of keys. He's got 8 ROs. I said, you had all the keys. Well, I got these keys. Okay. Now we got to find the rest of the keys to figure out where those belong. And then to find out after you go and get all that mapped out, right? And then you go back to those 8 cars that are waiting for parts to find out that 7 of them, the parts are here. Some of the parts had been there for 2 weeks. Right? That he's sitting there with the ROs on his bench.
So that speaks to efficiency issues.
Yeah. And look, a lot of times we put a lot on technicians to be able to manage time well, right? And they're not. There's advisors, there's managers, directors, and technicians that are not very good at managing time, right? And if you have techs that aren't good at managing time, then you have to help manage it for them. Right. Which was the conversation I had with the person who was assistant service manager / dispatcher. Was like, you can't give him all these ROs. You have to give, here's your next job. Go do this job. When he comes back to you, you give him his next job. So he's already proved that he does great work. The guy had 0 comebacks on any work that he touched in the last 6 months. He did great work. The problem was he couldn't manage it all. So it just piled up. Right. It just piled up and it bogged his brain down. So he just kept getting more jobs.
You got to keep him in his lane. And you also, as the new service director or service manager coming in, you have to have a real frank conversation with the dealer. And you need to explain to him flat out, listen, we're going down this road here and we're going down for a little bit. You are going to get some road rash.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You are going to get some serious burns. It's going to hurt. But when we come through it, this is what we need to go through. This is what you can expect, because it's not that different from store to store, right? It's the same chip that hits every single time, and we shouldn't be the punching bag going in. We've come in to fix it. We're not the scapegoat, right?
Right.
I've got a couple of comments here. Jerry says they are title chasers chasing the money. They never last long. I think those are the people that aren't asking the right questions going in.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Clementi, many times that change is precipitated by the cultural undertone. The GM or dealer principal keep chasing the elusive profitability and market share, but they can't identify that they are the root cause. Wow.
Yeah.
That's that whole looking in the mirror thing and being self-aware. Self-awareness is not something we're very good at in automotive. I hate to say it.
Well, look, Paul, I'll tell you something that one of my mentors very early in my career, his dad was also a customer that came in, and we were having we were chatting at the service desk one day, and I'll clean up what he said, but he said if you meet more than one a-hole in the day, you need to go home and look in the mirror, because the a-hole is probably you, right? So if you keep bringing in people that keep failing in your dealership, you are probably the problem. If you start taking over stores and keep failing, you might be the problem. Yeah. It might not be. You might want to say it's the general manager or the dealer principal or whatever, but the common problem in all those failures that is in those stores was you.
Yeah. Oh, here's a good one from John. Worst I've ever seen, 2,100 open ROs and 450 cars on site.
That's a lot of cars just to be sitting on the lot for actual, never mind the number of open ROs. There's a
Yeah,
lot of cars to be sitting there.
huge, huge.
I ran a Honda store that did 200 hours a day, and we never had 450 cars there.
Mike Vogel, high priority for every service manager, especially newbies, is to be working your work in progress and open RO report every day.
100% it is. Yep.
I tell you what, the aftermarket does it. We have to close all our ROs at the end of the day. Okay, all of them. We didn't have an open RO problem.
Right.
Because we had to account for every dollar every single day. Carryover are we waiting on parts? Whatever the reason is, we need to be able to account for. Joe Clementi says, happy surveys from customers who've waited the longest and had the least communication. Oh, I'm doing an article on that one very, very shortly. I read something in Automotive News, and yes, the waiting times and the lack of communication, believe it or not, is still a problem with every OEM, Jerry Davis, my first month in my store, I wrote off over 75,000. It was the right thing to do. Hey, if the money's gone, it's gone.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, you've got to get back to you've got to get back to a water line that you can go from. Yeah. And kicking that can further down the road is not going to help. Bite the bullet, feel the pain, and move on.
He says long-term growth should be the goal. It took 2 years, but our customer retention is up 54% year over year. Our customer pay ELR is up 110%. Good for you, Jerry.
Nice job, Jerry.
This is a guy that rolls up his sleeves, has a plan, and works that plan every single day. And he's not been without challenges.
Yeah.
Right. In spite of it all, Jerry, good for you, man. You've done it. You're doing some great. You've done a good job there, and you got lots more that's coming. Okay. Now, in earning the trust of the people, we're talking about public praising. We're talking about private coaching, right? One of the things that a lot of employees today feel is lacking is a sense of appreciation.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of, especially some of the younger people coming into the business, whether they're advisors, managers, technicians, that's very important to them. Money is important. Yes. Money is very important. But these other things are equally important. Now, you talk about 3 improvement buckets. Tell me a little bit about that.
I knew you were going to ask about my 3 improvement buckets, and I'll be honest, Paul, I don't remember what the 3 buckets were.
Okay, we'll come back to that. We'll put that in the parking lot.
I can't remember the whole book off the top of my head.
All right. Now, assessments and planning. All right, competitive pricing. Labor rate audit, Google Sheet tracking template, things like that. In order to be better than the other people, you need to know what are the other people doing.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't have to focus on the competition, but you need to know that there is competition, and you need to know what they're doing and understand that so that you can talk to your customers about it. Right. We're not going to hide from our pricing, but we're also, you also don't want to be getting surprised by your customer when they come in.
Right. You need to shop your competition.
Yes.
And unfortunately, a lot of people in our business think that it's a race to the bottom. It's not.
It's not.
People will pay for the value, right? If you and I are in the woods and there's a bear that's going to eat one of us, I just need to run faster than you, Dave. Nothing personal. I like you. But I just need to run faster than you. I don't need to be some marathon runner. I just need to outrun you. And running our stores, when we're looking at what the competition is doing, is really no different. You just need to be better than the other people.
Absolutely.
And I know this one will resonate with John Fraser. Written policies and process manual. How important is that one?
It's hugely important. It's hugely important from a couple of different perspectives. Number one, it's important that you have a process written out for everything. Number one, so you can get new people up to speed quickly. But number two, so the people that are there understand what is supposed to be done. You can't hold somebody accountable to something you've never told them how to do or given them a process for. And actually, I'll say it's important in 3 different ways, because the other thing that happens in any business is called process drift. And that is simply exactly as it sounds. It's the drifting away from the process. It happens everywhere, right? We have a process for how we answer the phone, and then 2 people call in sick on a day, right? And so part of that process that we're using in there, we toss out because we got 2 people out. So we just need to go a little quicker. But then the next day, when those 2 people are back in, we don't get back into that full thing. Maybe they skipped 4 steps and we add 3 of them back in. Now we lost 1. And now over time, that process, right? Like going from here to my living room, 2 degrees off, not too bad. I'm still in the same room. I'm going to the moon and I'm 2 degrees off. I'm in big trouble because I'm going to miss the moon, right? And that's what happens to your processes. Yeah.
That's key. Another thing is clarifying a unifying vision that contains the team members' life goals, right? That's the thing we talked about a little bit before, is you need to help them to understand how it benefits the store and how it ultimately benefits them as well, and that you're going to support them to achieve that.
Yeah, and that becomes part of your motivation and coaching tools with them. If I understand that Paul's driving factor is to get himself a new Mustang, then as I coach and hold you accountable to things, I'm going to talk about that Mustang. And I'm going to talk about the things that you're doing that might keep you from getting that Mustang as fast as you want it. Or I might be praising you and saying, hey, you might end up with that Mustang in July instead of December, like you were thinking, right? But you need to understand those motivations. And then you can get them to understand that bigger vision that you painted of the entire store, how that plays into what their vision of their life is.
So part of that 90 days is assessing, it's coaching, building the value, getting their buy-in, and eliminating roadblocks. And one of those roadblocks in a lot of stores ends up being faulty equipment.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. How does that slow down a technician?
Yeah, I mean, it does more than slow down a tech, right? It hurts a lot of things. And what you typically have when you go into a store is some goodwill with dealer principal or general manager or fixed ops director, depending on where you're landing in the hierarchy, right? Yeah. But you usually have some goodwill there. Use it to your advantage. Right? Like you brought me here to fix this store. I need this stuff now. This is going to help us to keep technicians, to attract technicians, to get the technicians to understand that we're actually here to help them, or advisors if it's a problem. Right? I was this is funny. There was advisors at a store. I was not at this store, but the advisors were not doing the training that they were supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And people were getting on them, right? About doing the training, right? You got to do the training, Training wasn't getting done. Do you want to know what was keeping them from doing the training? Their computers didn't have speakers. They couldn't hear the training. Right? And it wasn't a matter of it didn't have an audio card in the computer, so they couldn't even plug in headphones and listen. Right?
Wow.
So it was 4 months of this, of not getting the training, until finally there was a conversation had, and one of the advisors was like, I would do it if I could hear it. Like, what do you mean you can't hear it? Like, I don't have any speakers. They're like, put headphones in. They're like, we tried, it doesn't do anything. Computers didn't even have audio cards. And so they couldn't do their training.
So in addition to having that conversation with the dealer that you're going to get some road rash, it's going to burn, it's going to hurt, but ultimately it will be good. another part of that conversation then is also saying, look, many stores I go into, we need to make an investment in maintaining some equipment that's down, that's causing slowdowns, that's costing the store money, that's costing morale. So that's also an important conversation. And when you have these conversations before day one that you know are coming, then that's just going to help with your success in turning things around, because the dealer is going to be prepared. Just like we say a customer needs to be prepared for what's going to unfold when they come in for that service visit. They need to have a full understanding of what's going to transpire, where they go, who's going to come up to them, what your process is. You need to put the dealer through that same process so that you're not shackled when you come in. Because the last thing you want to go do is have to go beg for money when you know going in it's going to cost money, right? And you talked about training, and I'm a big one for training for obvious reasons. But that's something that the regular training, the morning huddles, it doesn't have to be War and Peace, right?
Right.
But there are so many stores that don't have a meeting in the morning when they start the day. Here are our carryovers. Here are the challenges that we faced yesterday. Here's how we overcame some of them. Here's where we had some failures. This is our workload today. This is what we have booked so far today. Now, historically, we know we're going to get X percentage of people that just show up.
Right.
But knowing what we know, here's how we're going to plan for it. Kind of set our day at the beginning. Now, there's a lot of training you can do in store, but how do you feel about what value do you feel bringing in an occasional outside trainer does for the store?
Yeah, I think there's huge value in that, right? None of us know everything. As good as we want to believe we are, none of us know it all, and none of us communicate with everybody in the same way, and none of us are going to get through to everybody in the same way. And you bring in a trainer, they have a different delivery than you, they have a different method than you, and maybe that's the method that touches Paul the right way, where Paul's light goes on and he goes, oh, that's what I was missing in the walk around. Right. So, that's the value of bringing in fresh eyes into your dealership. Right. And that trainer is also not just doing their training, they're also seeing your dealership with fresh eyes. And they're going to be able to go to you and go, hey, I know you're in here every day. You probably don't notice this. Right. But you should. The first day that I was at that store I was at last week, they said the next day that the Nissan rep was coming in, and I'm like, when the Nissan rep's here, ask him if he can get a new poster to put in that holder, because Nissan's color is red, not pink. It had been in there so long it was faded, right? But to somebody who's in the store every single day, it's like your shocks going bad in your car. Right? It happens over 75,000 miles. You don't notice it, but put somebody else in your car that's driving down the road doing this, and like, man, you should get some shocks in this thing.
And you know what I like about that also is that when you work with people every day, you may become a little complacent, right? I've gone into stores where they had problems with particular advisors that turned out to not be an advisor problem at all. It turned out to be a manager problem because they didn't take the time to investigate things that I discovered within a day or two of working inside the store. I'm not a threatening force, right? I don't work for the store. I work with the store. And as a result of that, I can ask some questions that maybe somebody that worked there couldn't.
There's a story from long ago, Paul, that they used to ship codfish down from, I think it was way up in Washington State, right? They shipped them on rail cars, and they had this problem that when they got to where they were going, the fish, when people tried to eat them, the fish was soft. The meat was soft, right? And they what somebody figured out was, when they're just coming across in these train cars, they're just docile. They're just sitting there. They're not swimming around. They're not moving. And that caused the problem. They started putting a catfish in with them, right? And catfish is a natural predator to a cod, and it started chasing the cod around. So now they're constantly swimming around, right? That's the new set of eyes that somebody needs to be, right? You're the guy who I don't work at the store, but I work for the store, right? And now I'm seeing things a little different. I'm going to mix things up a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's key. Want to get to a couple of comments. Jerry Davis says, I've been offered a fixed ops position and a future opportunity as a GM. That's my long-term goal. Good for you, man. Accountability is one of my biggest strengths. People want to be held accountable. Mike Vogel, appreciation. Service managers, other titles should be head coach, head cheerleader every day. And Jerry Davis, Mike Vogel, cat herder. Jerry says, it doesn't pay to be the cheapest whore in town. You don't need to. You need to sell value, not price, because when everybody's racing towards the bottom, everybody loses.
Yep.
And Joe Clementi, that's called training by osmosis. Osmosis doesn't necessarily work. And Jerry says, the best reward I got recently was a tech telling me I never made him so much money. I appreciate you for helping me to get there. And that's something that resonates with John Frazier also. He shared some of those texts with me. Those are proud moments right there. Lamont Harris, late to the show. Sorry, family. Just know I highly respect both of you. Thank you very much, Lamont. We feel the same way about you, brother. Morning huddles, are they 100% necessary? I think so.
100% necessary. It's amazing what comes out. Amazing what comes out in a well-run, quick morning huddle.
Yeah.
And Paul, I'll give you my 4-step process for that morning huddle.
Yeah.
And it's actually 5 because I start with 0. And 0 is the meeting starts on time, period. Yeah. If it's 6:45, it starts at 6:45. No reason to start at any other time.
Nope.
We're gonna look at number of appointments, how many hours are on those appointments, anything specialty that's coming in, check engine light, AC, EV repairs, and when that's coming in, so we can let those techs know I have a 9:30 check engine light coming in. Please make sure you're available for that. Right. So we're not going somewhere. We're not taking break at 9:30. Well, whatever it is. Step 2 is ask who has carryovers, who's waiting for parts, or who's waiting on an answer from an advisor. In these meetings, you need to have all advisors, all the managers, all the techs, and at least a person from parts that's there, preferably the parts manager and a parts counter guy, but at least one person from parts. You'll find a lot of times you have a tech that goes, I'm waiting for an alternator to come in, and parts goes, what alternator? We never ordered an alternator for anything. Or they say, I'm waiting for an alternator. I've been waiting 3 days, and parts goes, we notified you 2 days ago that alternator came in, right? Things happen. Number 3 is we review each tech's hours, and we do that right there with everybody, right? Like, hey, great job yesterday. I have their sheets. Great job yesterday. Great job, blah, blah, blah. Hey, yesterday wasn't so good. Hopefully we'll do better today. And 4 is end the meeting on time. It never goes past that. It never goes past that 15-minute mark. And it's that simple. And so much comes out of those meetings. And you're holding those in the shop, because in the shop, as long as you're a single shop operation, it's not on 2 floors or anything like that. You hold it in the shop. You're looking around. If you ask about carryovers and everybody says, I don't have any carryovers, and the 6 cars on lifts in the shop, okay, then explain to me what those are.
Right, exactly.
They're here before we started work, which means they were here when we left. That's a carryover.
100%. All right, there's one from John Frazier. Unpopular opinion. I've yet to meet an outside consultant that adds value to the operation in relation to the money they charge. They come for a week, charge $10,000, collect their check, and go. Now, I love this. I love this comment, because no 2 consultants are the same, just as no 2 dealers are the same. John, you are correct. There are some consultants that come in, charge a lot of money, and you may not see the value in it. But when you're on the other side of the street, you also see things that you don't see from your side of the street. Okay. And the unpopular opinion there is that as a trainer, how many times you go into a store, you analyze and find specific areas of opportunity.
Yep.
You help them with a specific, detailed roadmap as to how to solve those issues. And you go back a month later to find that this much action was taken.
Mm-hmm.
So I would challenge you, and you are my good friend, brother. We've broken bread together many times. I would challenge you to look at some of those stores that may not be you, because you are a very small percentage of people that are capable, able, and willing, and actually do what's necessary. But I can assure you, for every one of you, there are many that are not like you. And for those stores that spend that kind of money to not follow the instructions, that's the other side of the street to your comment right there.
Mm-hmm.
Lamont Harris, I have morning huddle with my shop foreman, parts manager, internal writer. We review work in progress and pace. Should this include my writers? I think yes.
I think it should include your writers and your techs.
Yeah, everybody.
Everybody that's involved in touching that customer vehicle should be involved in that. If you have porters and you can get them there 15 minutes early, then they should be in that meeting too, because they're those guys that we talked about, Paul, that can identify kinks in the hose that you may not be seeing.
Yeah. And speaking of the porters, they get feedback from the people. The porters that are bringing people back and forth, they get feedback from those customers sometimes that you never even hear about. So why wouldn't you want those guys and gals in that meeting?
Mm-hmm.
And Joe Clementi says, Lamont Harris, yes, 15 minutes of alignment victories, priorities sucks. John Frazier, sometimes the message is right, the execution is the gap. Hey, didn't I just hear that a moment ago? You pay for knowledge, and upon consistent execution, the training indicator is more revenue. That is 100%. Mm-hmm. And John Frazier said, sounds exhausting. Well, John, I did work in the exhaust business for about 11 years, and I can assure you it was definitely exhausting. Mike Vogel, John Frazier, except for Mike Vogel, of course, he's different, and he's the real hashtag Fixed Ops coach. I second and third that
whatever
one.
Mike Vogel says he's going to charge you, it's worth it.
John Frazier, I've lived both sides. I get the luxury of looking at it from a 10,000-foot view on the daily. You have, but not everybody does the same.
But wait, if you've lived it from both sides, then you went into dealerships, charged them $10,000 and didn't give them any value? Is that what you're saying? I don't believe you would say that.
Now, I think John feels he has a little bit more appreciation for both sides of it, but still backed into the comment of have yet to find one that's worth the money.
Right.
That's where I feel, and hey, I don't know everything, but I feel that execution is a very large part of that that problem.
Yeah, and that's not to say there are plenty of what I call the teach, reach, and screech people out there, right? They come in, they teach, they reach for their check, and they screech the tires out of the parking lot, and you will never see them again, right? There are plenty of the teach, reach, and screech guys out there.
Yeah,
and that I will agree. You will never, no matter how much you pay them, get an ROI from those people. But I think there's a lot of other people out there that are doing very good work consulting with dealerships that actually care about the dealership's success. And and will make sure that dealership does get an ROI on what they're charged.
If you do the plan, you'll get the results.
Yes.
That's a very simple way for me to say it.
Yep.
Lamont Harris, thank you, Dave, for the guidance. I'll focus on restructuring my morning huddles. I want them to be meaningful and not a waste of time. And, to that point, something that I saw here is when you go into the store, you talk about reassigning bays. That's an interesting concept right there.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to move bays. If it makes sense, it makes sense.
Yeah.
There's some things don't make sense. Some
Right.
things in a shop, and again, that's sometimes complacency, sometimes it's but that's the way we've always done it kind of
Yeah.
things. Like there was a store that I was in that had a vending machine for like shop supplies.
Yeah.
That John Fraser, you don't like kiosks? I don't like vending machines for shop supplies. I don't think it makes any sense at all. And mine turned into mostly a snack machine that I used it for instead. But this kiosk that was for shop supplies, right? Guys are using this all the time. It's boxes of gloves, it's batteries for things. It's all the little shop supplies that they're using. It was on the complete opposite side of the shop from where all the productive techs were. Like, how does this make sense? I'm making them walk all the way over here, right? It's from one end of the shop to the other. Maybe it was a 45-second walk. But if they made that walk 5 times a day, I've now wasted almost 10 minutes of their time, not counting all the little conversations that happened from them walking from their bay to the vending machine and back again.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. So hopefully folks have gotten some good ideas about some of the things that maybe we overlook sometimes that can really help with a 90-day turnaround towards a better plan. Be realistic, realize that it's going to take a good year to a year and a half for real sustainable change, but it shouldn't take forever. And by all means, celebrate the small and early wins. Okay. And that celebration does not mean pizza.
No pizza.
Every car guy eats pizza and Chinese food, but that doesn't mean necessarily the celebration. You write in the book, create awards to reward and reinforce culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And Paul, you touched on the younger generation earlier. We need to realize the younger generation is growing up with these video games where they're leveling up all the time, right?
Yeah.
And that's what they're looking for. It's pretty simple, right? They don't want to be a lube tech for 6 months, but maybe they don't mind being lube tech and then lube tech 1 or lube tech 2 or lube tech 3. It's exactly the same thing. Just give them a little bit extra. Hey, good news. Today, you get to also get your own filter out of parts, whatever it is, some stupid little thing, but it's a level up for them. They need that constant, right? And so create those little awards, just little things like that to keep them going.
A creative career path.
There you go.
And Jerry Davis says, your great consultants will hold you accountable to the plan of action that is needed to right the ship. Ego is the biggest killer consultants.
Ego is the biggest killer of everything in our business.
In the car business? Ego? Come on, Jerry. Joe Clementi says Mike Vogel. He gives it the punch.
There you go.
The emojis. Lamont Harris, great show. Thanks, fellas. Hey, thank everybody that was on live, and thank you to those that are going to watch it on the replay. A couple of last words you want to leave us with, Dave, before we sign off.
Yeah, one shameless plug. Go to Amazon, buy the book, The 90-Day Fix.
Did you put the link in the thread?
I didn't.
After the show, because you can't do it.
I'll do that. I will put the link in there for people to find it. Other than that, listen, let's do what we can to continue to make this business better. It's a great place to make a living. There's a lot of people out there that can benefit from this business. There's not a lot of businesses that you can go into with zero education and own dealerships. that doesn't happen in a lot of other industries where you can do that. So go out there and do it. John Fraser, this one's for you. This book is completely analog. Other than it's a digital book, everything in there is analog. There's nothing digital about this. The processes that are in there for people to start on their first 90 days and work with stores.
Excellent. Well, Dave, thank you very much. I wish everybody is safe and successful next week. And we'll see you next week on Sunday Night Live. Dave, stay on after we go off here.
You bet.